Okay, let's dive into something pretty fundamental today. Really understanding how our bodies work, those incredible mechanisms inside. Our source material is based on Vander's Human Physiology, the 16th edition. That's by Widmaier, Raff, and Strang from McGraw Hill. And our mission really is, for you listening, if you want to deepen your knowledge here, is to unpack what this resource offers. See if it's maybe a genuine shortcut to getting well-informed on physiology.
Well, it's definitely got a history. This book, Vander's, it has this long legacy of excellence. People often call it a classic in the field. So the 16th edition, it's trying to live up to that, keep its place as a definitive guide, but obviously bring everything up to date.
Right, makes sense. So, okay, what does that actually mean for how it teaches? What's the core philosophy this edition is taking?
Yeah, that's the interesting part. The description really emphasizes moving beyond the mere listing of facts. That's a key phrase they use. Instead, it stresses the causal chains of events. So how things happen, the sequence.
Causal chains.
Okay. Think of it like learning not just the names of dance moves, but how one flows into the next, right? It's about understanding the how and the why, building the analytical thinking, not just memorization.
Gotcha. So it really wants you to grasp the interconnected process, not just, learn about your terms in isolation.
Exactly. Precisely. And it does this using something called general principles of physiology, which they introduce, like right at the start, chapter 1.
Okay. General principles.
Yeah, the idea is to give you these sort of core rules, maybe like feedback loops for balance or how structure affects function, things like that. And then it shows you how these same principles apply everywhere from tiny cells up to whole organ systems. It explores things like homeostasis at all those different levels.
Okay, now this sounds really interesting, especially if you're maybe thinking about heading into a health field, or even if you're just curious about how theory applies in the real world. The source mentions a strong link there.
It does, and that brings up a good point. How do you make physiology, which can feel a bit abstract, feel, real? The description says this edition integrates compelling clinical case studies actually embedded right within every chapter.
Oh, within the chapters, not just at the end.
Right. And then there's also a final chapter, chapter 19, that pulls together more complex integrated cases. So it definitely has a clear, clinically oriented focus, trying to show you those real-life applications.
That sounds incredibly valuable. Like for actually building clinical reasoning, seeing how the normal stuff explains what might be going wrong in a patient scenario. What about just understanding the core concepts clearly? Is it known for being easy to follow?
Yeah, clarity seems to be a big selling point. It apparently maintains that Vander's reputation for clarity and accuracy, and a huge part of that seems to be the visuals.
Ah, the diagrams.
Exactly. The source mentions carefully drafted artworks and figures, excellent diagrams, and this sounds key, numerous flow diagrams.
Yeah.
And these flow diagrams are designed specifically to illustrate those clearly defined chains of causal links we talked about earlier. You can visually trace the steps.
Okay, tracing the steps. And does it give you ways to, check if you're actually getting it as you go along?
Seems like it. It mentions things called physiology inquiries and critical thinking questions that are often linked directly to the figures themselves.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah. And apparently there's an answer key right at the end of the book and explanations. So you're not just guessing if you're right, you find out why. Some reviews quoted suggest it explains things in a basic and simplistic mannerism, but is still detailed enough. So sounds like it hits a sweet spot for undergraduates, maybe from different backgrounds too.
And is it just a physical book? Or is there a digital side to it these days?
Oh no, it's definitely presented as an integrated package of textual and digital material. So it leverages tools like McGraw Hill Connect and SmartBook. Those often offer adaptive learning, practice that focuses on what you specifically need help with, plus ways to track your progress.
Adaptive learning.
And it's also available on platforms like VitalSource, which usually means features like read aloud or offline access on your devices.
So wrapping this part up, what this deep dive into the description suggests is, for you, this is positioned as a resource aiming for a really deep, practical grasp of physiology. It focuses on the why and how those mechanisms, those causal chains. It links it to the real world with clinical cases, uses strong visuals, gives you tools to check your understanding, and wraps it all up with modern digital options.
Yeah, and connecting that to the bigger picture, the whole approach implies that really mastering physiology isn't just recall. It's about understanding that whole system, those interconnected causal chains, and then being able to apply that understanding to health, to disease.
Right. It's presented pretty confidently, too. They call it an indispensable resource for mastering the complexities of human physiology. Okay, so here's a final thought for you to chew on. If this way of understanding the body, focusing on causal chains, on the step-by-step mechanisms, is so effective, how might applying that same mechanism-focused thinking change how you approach other complex systems, whether that's in your studies or maybe even in technology or social situations? Something to think about.